Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca Bryden, trustee of the Beacon Haven Board. I have some readings I've prepared for this meeting. I'll be reading from the Bible and writings of Mary Baker Eddy. From Isaiah 63, I will mention the loving kindnesses of the Lord and the praises of the Lord according to all that the Lord hath bestowed on us, and the great goodness toward the house of Israel, which he hath bestowed on them according to his mercies, and according to the multitude of his loving kindnesses. In all their afflictions he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence saved them. In his love, in his pity, he redeemed them, and he bare them and carried them all the days of old. Psalms. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High thy habitation, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest they dash thy foot against a stone. They shall tread upon the lion and adder. The young lion and the dragon shall thou trample under feet. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. And from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. As the children of Israel were guided triumphantly through the Red Sea, the dark ebbing and flowing tides of human fear, as they were led through the wilderness, walking wearily through the great desert of human hopes and anticipating promised joy, so shall the spiritual idea guide all right ideas in their passage from sense to soul, from a material sense of existence to the spiritual, up to the glory prepared for them who love God. Stately science pauses not, but moves before them, a pillar of cloud by day and of fire by night, leading to divine heights. And this is a cutting from an essay by Mary Baker Eddy in Miscellaneous Writings. Love is not something put upon a shelf to be taken down on rare occasions with sugar tongs and laid on a rose leaf. I make strong demands on love, call for action, call for active witnesses to prove it, and noble sacrifices and grand achievements as its results. Unless these appear, unless these appear, I can aside the word as a sham and counterfeit, having no ring of true metal. Love cannot be a mere abstraction or goodness without activity and power. As a human quality, the glorious significance of affection is more than words. It is the tender, unselfish deed done in secret, the silent, ceaseless prayer, the self-forgetful heart that overflows the veiled form, stealing on an errand of mercy out of a side door, the little feet tripping along the sidewalk, the gentle hand opening the door that turns toward want and woe, sickness and sorrow, and thus lighting the dark places of earth. And finally, hymn number 9 by Violet Hay. All glory be to God Most High, and on the earth be peace. The angels sang in days of yore the song that ne'er shall cease, till all the world knows peace. God's angels ever come and go, all winged with light and love. They bring us blessings from on high. They lift our thoughts above. They whisper, God is love. O longing hearts that wait on God, through all the world so wide, He knows the angels that you need and sends them to your side to comfort, guard, and guide. Oh, wake and hear the angel song that bids all discord cease. From pain and sorrow, doubt and fear, it brings us sweet release, and so our hearts find peace. And now our president, Judy Olson.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good afternoon, friends. It's such a joy to welcome each of you here at Beacon Haven's 2025 annual meeting. We're so grateful you've been able to join us today. Beacon Haven is a Christian Science care facility located in New Brighton, Minnesota, a place devoted to expressing the healing presence of Christ through loving, prayerful care. Our theme for this year's gathering comes from hymn 10 of the Christian Science hymnal, His care doth e'er surround us. What a beautiful truth. That divine love's care is constant, unceasing, and all-embracing. That idea really underlies everything we do at Beacon Haven, our nursing, our prayer, our outreach, and our gratitude for all who support this healing work. Both care and prayer are at the heart of our mission. As our devoted staff lovingly meets the daily needs of our patients, the board has been prayerfully seeking ways to care for them, to support their spiritual growth and strengthen the inspiration that sustains their healing service. We've been richly blessed to find an answer through the work of Dr. Joan Bernard Bradley, a Christian Scientist whose spiritual insight and guidance has uplifted our Beacon Haven family. Throughout the summer and fall, Joan has led weekly metaphysical workshops, offered individual consultations, and provided prayer-based support, reminding us that God's love is always active, always sufficient, and always near. God's care has also reached beyond our walls this year, embracing the wider Twin Cities Christian Science community. With support from the Minnesota Joint Outreach Committee, we have hosted 2 Effulgence Foundation films, which inspired all who attended and strengthened our shared sense of love's ever-presence. We also want to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to Esther Sarmiento, our dear director of Christian Science Nursing. Esther's grace, dedication, and steadfast love has touched everyone at Beacon Haven. as she prepares to return home to Ohio at the end of March to welcome a new grandchild. You will be deeply missed, and we know that divine love meets all our needs and will prepare the way for us. Earlier this year, our sister facility, Clairview Home in Delafield, Wisconsin, announced a new direction, focusing on independent living and Christian Science visiting nurse services. In response, Beacon Haven is joyfully stepping forward to partner with Clairview Home to provide facility-based Christian Science nursing care through the Upper Midwest. We see this as yet another example of God's wise and loving patience. As the only Christian Science care facility in this region, we are deeply grateful for the loving support that sustains this holy work. Your monthly contributions and testamentary gifts help us remain open and ready to meet the needs. Each expression of giving through prayer, time, and resources is a reflection of God's unending supply and care. And now it's my pleasure to introduce John Riley, our dear friend and trusted business consultant for more than 20 years. John will share our financial report, which gives practical evidence of God's abundant provision for Beacon Haven. John?
Judy's correct. It's been my privilege to support the Christian Science nursing mission of this organization now for more than 20 years. I attended my first Clifton House annual meeting 23 years ago in 2002. So it's good to be back again. Thank you. And those of you who came hoping to see Bruce Richardson, I'm sorry. I hope I don't disappoint you too much as I run through the financial report. Okay, there we go. All right. So a year ago, Beacon Haven celebrated the centenary of its Christian Science nursing care in this community. During that past century, this community accomplished great things. In the 1920s, this community built Star of Bethlehem, the first facility. In the 1970s, the community opened Clifton House to resume care. In the 2000s, this community built this facility we're in here right now to both maintain and improve care. And this community continues to do great things. Now in the 2020s, this community began building an endowment to sustain care now and for the future. They're pointing in a different direction. There it goes. Okay, there we are. In addition to those milestone projects, which are important, I also want to acknowledge what I think is the most important accomplishment, and that is keeping care ready and supporting the work of Christian Science nurses all day, every day, all year. In a report, Judy mentioned 3 gifts critical to keeping ready: prayer, time, and resources. So with this treasurer's report, I'll focus on the financial stewardship of these gifts. There are 3 ideas that inform the financial stewardship work at Beacon Haven right now. The first idea is to keep the budget focused on Christian Science nurses. Directly or indirectly, every expense supports that priority. I'll share some numbers about that in a moment. The second idea, gift support from members and donors, is what sustains the cost of keeping Christian Science nursing ready here. This has been true for 100 years, but as we have shared over the past few years, annual gift support alone now no longer covers all of the increasing cost of keeping care ready. So that brings us to the third idea. Endowment gifts can fill this funding gap, separating annual gift support from the increasing cost of keeping ready. Planned gifts to endowment are already providing a vital resource to keep Christian Science nursing care available here. The work is making important progress. We have a little ways yet to go. So this chart illustrates how the budget is focused on the work of our Christian Science nurses. The green section represents the direct cost of Christian Science nursing at Beacon Haven. 67 cents of every dollar spent here directly supports the Christian Science nursing work, and this is up 3% over the prior year. There are other costs, of course, to remaining ready as well. Maintaining this facility uses 9 cents of every operating dollar. And I'm pleased to report that interest expense continues to remain essentially zero. None of that is going out for interest. 18% of the budget covers the cost of meeting government regulations, billing for insurance and Medicare, processing payroll, ordering supplies, hiring and scheduling employees, all those essential supports that allow our Christian Science nurses to focus exclusively on nursing. Let's take a moment about that, though. A few years ago, in this Treasurer's Report in 2021, we shared some good news that our Christian Science nurses were finally receiving a sustainable living wage increase. That year, a national funder provided Beacon Haven with a 5-year grant to help cover the increased cost of raising wages to a level where nurses could afford to work as nurses. That grant funded a truly livable wage for the Christian Science nurses here. We are now in the 5th and final year of that grant. In this final year, that grant now covers a little less than half of those increased wage expenses. It is our goal that earnings created from endowment gifts will fully meet this need when the grant ends in March. So this next graph takes a closer look at the cost of providing a sustainable living wage. This line graph shows the daily expense for Christian Science nursing wages here at Beacon Haven for the fiscal years 2016 through to 2026, the current year. Beginning in 2018, you'll see Beacon Haven began to make some modest progress in the wages for its nurses. Then, with substantial help from our national funder, in 2021, and this is the period shaded in yellow on that graph, Beacon Haven was able to truly lift the wages for all Christian Science nurses to a level that provided a sustainable living wage and retirement benefits. The size of this uplift demonstrated how limiting wages had become. Without a living wage, there can be no nursing staff. The grant gave Beacon Haven 5 years to get ready to carry the cost of these uplifted wages on its own. So that same year, our endowment building work began to prepare for this new financial burden. And so just a note here on how big is that cost. The amount of just the increase in wage expense, so not all wages, but just the portion of the increase, represents $175,000 this year. So to cover this new cost requires an endowment of $3.5 million, but that's paying out 5% annually. Let's take a look at gift support and the progress with that endowment. As most of you know, Beacon Haven started as a gift presented on Christmas Eve, 1920, to Abigail Dyer Thompson by her students. Ever since that day, gifts from prior generations are what have sustained Christian Science nursing here in this community. The same statement is true for every Christian Science nursing facility everywhere. All facilities remain open and ready because of gift support. With gift support, this facility remains a beacon of Christian Science nursing here in Minnesota, across the upper Midwest, and more recently, the greater Chicago area, and now this year for Wisconsin too. Support from annual gifts and gifts to endowment account for 61% of all funding used for the Christian Science nursing mission here at Beacon Haven. Medicare and private fees for care received provide 39% of funding. About 10 years ago, that ratio was essentially reversed. For patient fees, the biggest change is the portion provided through Medicare. Although Medicare represents only about 2% of total patient billing over the past 2 years, Beacon Haven remains committed to providing access to this benefit. Use of private Medicare Advantage plans is replacing Medicare for most patients. So this graph takes a little closer look at the gift support that I was just talking about. In her report, Judy mentioned how two types of gift support are essential to keeping ready: annual or monthly gifts that directly support the operations, and also planned or testamentary gifts used to build the endowment. This chart illustrates the growing importance of investment earnings from gifts to endowment in funding our annual operations. The green portion of these bars represents annual gifts and grants. The blue portion on top is the earnings from endowment funds. You can see the change over the last 10 years. It is important, however, to see that these earnings are a supplement to ongoing annual gift support to cover growing operating expense. They are not a substitute. Annual gift support remains vital. The columns in the middle, just as a reference point for you, those shaded in yellow there, that's that temporary period when a national funder was providing substantial grant support for the wage increases and for some other projects, including some pandemic area funding. That funder is now no longer making grants of any kind. So this year it marks the end of that grant support. Unfortunately, we have some wonderful endowment growth already underway. As you can see in the line graph here, our endowment fund has increased over the past few years from just a few $1,000s to more than $2 million as of this month, $2.2 million. This is illustrated by the dark blue part of this line graph. However, you can also see that still leaves some considerable amount of endowment funds to raise to reach that level needed to support the cost of providing living wages to our Christian Science nurses. That $3.5 million target that goal is represented by the yellow portion of this line. We have a little ways to go. The green portion then is the part that gets to the final $5 million goal for the endowment fund to match all those growing cost of living expenses over the next few years. I invite those of you who desire to participate in the supply of this need to finish that endowment funding through a planned gift, testamentary gift, or other arrangement, to please contact us at Beacon Haven. We'd be happy to work out a number of options for you. To close, as you've seen, annual costs have increased over the years, and in turn, new gift support is growing to meet the need. As you make your personal giving plans for both this season and for the coming year, please consider stretching your gift to help Beacon Haven remain ever ready to support the work of our Christian Science nurses. Thank you.
Move forward here. Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us today, either here at Beacon Haven or online. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all you lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. For the Lord is good. That's from Psalms 100. Praising God, serving God, and singing. Don't these actions express gratitude? We know an integral part of Christian Science healing is being grateful for God's goodness and love. And Christian Science nursing is a practical expression of God's love for his children. Beacon Haven's mission is to support proper care and an atmosphere expectant of healing through Christian Science nursing. The reference to proper care comes from the bylaw for the Christian Science nurse in the Manual of the Mother Church, Article 8, Section 31, which reads in part, "A member of the Mother Church who represents himself or herself as a Christian Science nurse shall be one who has a demonstrable knowledge of Christian Science practice, who thoroughly understands the practical wisdom necessary in a sick room, and who can take proper care of the sick." In addition to supporting proper care, we are devoted to providing a healing atmosphere for all who interact with Beacon Haven: patients, families, church members, Christian Science practitioners, vendors, everyone. An important focus for us this year was to think deeply about Mary Baker Eddy's statement in Science and Health on page 395 about what it means to be a Christian Science nurse. She writes, "An ill-tempered, complaining, or deceitful person should not be a nurse. The nurse should be cheerful, orderly, punctual, patient, full of faith, receptive to truth and love." In our leadership development work with Dr. Joan Bernard Bradley, we have been studying these nursing qualities and have identified them as core values underlying the work we do at Beacon Haven. We are holding monthly metaphysical in-service meetings focused on a deeper understanding of the core values. We are looking to Bible characters as role models, how they demonstrated the core values in their lives, and how it relates to our work at Beacon Haven. For example, September's core value was orderly. Daniel was the featured Bible character. He served 4 kings faithfully during the period of the Babylonian exile. He faced some very difficult challenges throughout his life. Despite these challenges, he demonstrated obedience to God, good above all else, respect for authority, service to the position, not a personal agenda, self-control in difficult situations, and discipline. Thinking deeply about how biblical characters worked through their challenges reminds us of our mission and why we are here. Oops, wrong way. As Judy mentioned, Clearview Home in Wisconsin now offers independent living in a Christian Science setting, in addition to visiting Christian Science nursing. We are happy to collaborate with Clearview or any Christian Science nursing organization to help find the best care for Christian scientists throughout the Upper Midwest. If you or your loved one's needs can no longer be met through visiting Christian Science nursing, we urge you to call Beacon Haven. We continue to offer full 24/7 Christian Science nursing care in a like-home healing atmosphere. We also continue to participate in Medicare for those whose care needs qualify. We are committed to being open and ready to accept those who wish to rely on Christian Science for healing. Our Pathways program for Christian Science nursing education is now accepting qualified applicants. We are partnering with an accredited Christian Science nursing education program. This collaboration will allow students from Beacon Haven to get the proper training they need. As John reported in the Treasurer's Report, we have prioritized paying our Christian Science nurses a living wage to allow them to be able to commit to a career in Christian Science nursing. We are deeply grateful for your contributions that support our Christian Science nursing ministry at Beacon Haven. Your loving metaphysical and financial support are deeply valued. Our services are only available because of your generosity and care. We have some exciting news to share. First, we are planning a Christmas concert on December 5th. And we will be resuming Lunch Bunch in February. I know people have been waiting for that one. Lunch Bunch is local church members coming together for a light lunch and an informal testimony meeting. We look forward to having you, our Beacon Haven community, join us for these events. So please stay tuned for the details. We are immensely grateful for Esther's service these past 2 years as Director of Christian Science Nursing. She loves Christian Science nursing. and we have been blessed to have her here at Beacon Haven. We appreciate her willingness to help us through the transition period, and we wish her well in all her future endeavors. If you are interested or know of someone who may be interested in applying for the position of Director of Christian Science Nursing, please just have them contact me. One of the definitions of transition is movement. Mary Baker Eddy says in Science and Health, mind is the source of all movement, and there is no inertia to retard or check its perpetual and harmonious action. Movement inherently implies freshness, new ideas, progress, opportunities for spiritual growth, and the unfoldment of good. We welcome progress, and we trust God's direction to move us forward. Thank you again for your continued prayerful and financial support of our ministry. So I would also like to give a special thank you to our volunteer board of trustees. Judy Olson, president. She serves on the executive committee and the development committee. Bruce Richardson, our vice president. He serves on the executive committee and the finance committee. Bob Eric, our treasurer, serves on the executive committee and the finance committee, and he is behind all of our technology today. So I am particularly grateful for that and for his helper, CB. Conrad Hansen, our secretary, he serves on the executive committee, and Rebecca Bryden, trustee. Again, thank you to the board for all you do for Beacon Haven. So this is the fun part, get to introduce the Beacon Haven team. The whole Beacon Haven team. I'll introduce the support team, the kitchen and the administrative, and then Esther will come up and introduce the Christian Science nurses. So we'll start with the kitchen. Ron Clark has been our kitchen manager for 11 years. We love his sense of humor and the joy he expresses. The patients really appreciate that as well. And he loves to hike and to travel, hence the photo. Peachy Sarmiento Booker, she is our weekend cook. She is kind and compassionate, and the patients love her. She loves taking photographs, and she also loves baseball. Cindy Commerce is our facility services manager. She has been in that position for about the past 7 years. Her knowledge of the building and all of its systems, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, is amazing. She is resourceful and willing to help out wherever she is needed. And she loves gardening and kayaking. Kelly Bain is our administrative assistant. She has worked for Beacon Haven since its opening in 2009. She is my right-hand helper. I could not manage the office without her keeping me on task and remembering all the details. She loves to watch dirt track car races. Ask her about it. And she loves to sew and spend time with her grandson. Jennifer Doan just joined our staff as the office manager, and she will be here later, by the way. She will be taking on bookkeeping tasks and helping with other administrative projects. She is a joy to work with, and she's fitting in very well with our team. She enjoys open water swimming and spending time with her family, including watching her daughter's sporting events. And I think I took myself out, so. I had to do a copy and paste very quickly, so, okay. So Esther, why don't you come up? Esther is our Director of Christian Science Nursing for the past 2 years. She loves to cook, to bake, and her baking is excellent, by the way, and spend time with her family. She enjoys outdoor activities like camping and biking. Take all of this. Do you want me to do my shot? I'll do the cookbook. Just leave it where it is. It actually catches it pretty well. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
it works just.
Thank you all for coming to Beacon Haven's annual meeting 2025. I'm privileged to introduce to you the Christian Science nursing team. Bill Dean, short-listed Christian Science nurse. She has worked for Beacon Haven 11 years. She likes to cook and helping her Kenyan community. Brenda, journalistic Christian Science nurse. She has worked for Beacon Haven 9 years. She loves cats and she loves traveling to Hawaii with her family. Len, journalistic Christian Science nurse. He has worked for Beacon Haven for the past 2 years. He likes fixing things around the home. He loves working on his Chevy truck. He likes to go camping with family. Sharon, Christian Science nurse. She has worked for Beacon Haven for 3 years. She likes making realistic pencil art portraits of her loved ones and surprising them with the portraits. She also enjoys being in nature and photographing plants and animals and looking for mushrooms. Giles, Christian Science nurse. He has worked for Beacon Haven 1.5 years. He likes going to movies and playing video games. He also likes dogs. Andita, journalistic Christian Science nurse. She has worked for Clifton House and Beacon Haven since 1993. She likes needle pointing, crewel stitchery, walking, hiking, fishing, and doing Sudoku puzzles. Thank you.
We're now going to collect the paper ballots from our members. So we'll have our election. And during that time, once we've collected the ballots, we'll have a short 5-minute break. And when we return, Rebecca Bryden, trustee, will share the results of the election.
Okay, the announcement is ready. Conrad Hansen has been elected for another 3-year term. Thank you, Conrad, very much.
Now, Conrad Hansen, trustee, will present the Beacon Award to our dear Dita Setterholm.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we honor one of our favorite Christian Science nurses, namely Dita Setterholm. As many of you Beacon Haven supporters fully appreciate, we cannot operate a Christian Science nursing facility without journal-listed Christian Science nurses. We often refer to them as JLNs. It takes years to acquire the skills, knowledge, and experience needed to become a JLN. And there has been a shortage of these special nurses as long as I can remember. For a facility like Old Clifton House or Beacon Haven to be operational, it must have sufficient JLNs to staff the facility 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. To maintain such a staff, it has often been necessary to recruit these special nurses from other states and even from outside the U.S. This is because there has scarcely ever been enough JLNs who live here in the metro area. When the old Clifton House facility closed its doors and Beacon Haven planned its opening, one of our goals was to grow our own nurses. pay them a living wage, and encourage them to make their homes in the metro area. When our Clifton House facility closed, a group of dedicated CS nurses made a commitment to stay here and be part of the new Beacon Haven facility. This group included Dita Sederholm, Darnell Hancock, Millie Kamakam, and Susie Smyers, who agreed to staff a Christian Science visiting nurse operation and to form the nucleus of what would become the nursing staff of Beacon Haven. Today, we are honoring Dita, who filled an even more needful part of the nursing staff, namely manning the night shifts when most nurses prefer to be home with their families. Dita was always willing to take those night shifts. Dita, will you come up, please, and join me here so everyone can see you? Dita began preparing for her nursing career in 1980, working part-time at Clifton House as a nurse's aide during summers and while going to college. She began her formal Christian Science nurse training in 1985, taking available courses at Clifton House and various other locations across the United States for some 5 years, until she received her journal listing in 1990. This training phase is a challenging time because it means living in a new locale for an extended time that is longer than that of a visitor, but much shorter than that of a resident. This is a time where it's easy to feel like a stranger in a strange city, alone and very much on your own. This was a time when Dita relied on God every day to show her the next required step in her life. She later described her choice and her path in these words: "It allowed me to give back, knowing that God is the source of my giving. So I did not worry about receiving something back, as I knew that God is the provider. I had asked God for a line of work where I could help nurse people with Christian Science, and it came to me that this was the direction for me." Dita returned to our metro area in 1993, and for the past 32 years has nursed hundreds of Christian Scientists while they had their healings. For these 32 years, Dita faithfully nursed these patients and formed a key part of Beacon Haven's Christian Science nursing staff. Today, we acknowledge Dita's long career of service and loyalty. I'm very honored to present the Beacon Haven Award to Dita Sederholm for her long history of service to Clifton House, Beacon Haven, and our entire Christian Science community. Please give Dita a huge round of applause. Congratulations, Dita, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, Dita. We love you. We appreciate you. So she's getting, just so you know, a Beacon Award is a special pin that's a silver lighthouse. That was Cindy Comer's daughter, actually. It's a custom piece of jewelry. And then she has some flowers, and we have her name on the cake today. So we're just so grateful. So I'll go ahead and introduce and then you'll move. Okay. It is my honor, my pleasure to introduce our inspirational speaker, Nancy Gingras. Nancy and her husband, Mike, live in central Wisconsin in the small town of Mosinee. Their home provides a quiet sanctuary surrounded by the beauty of nature, and they enjoy gardening, hiking, and watching birds. Their 2 cats are avid bird watchers too, from the screened-in porch. They also love traveling and visiting their 2 grown children and their families who live in Wisconsin and California. Nancy has been a lifelong Christian Scientist and was class taught by Charles Ferris, CSB, who was a longtime practitioner and teacher of Christian Science in Minneapolis. She said that coming to talk in Minneapolis feels like coming home. Nancy began her public practice in 1991, and it has afforded her many wonderful opportunities to serve, including as a camp practitioner and as a speaker at associations, and serving as our house practitioner. She served on the board of a Christian Science nursing facility and a Christian Science residential facility. She has helped the AOCSN as an auditor. That's the Association of Organizations for Christian Science Nursing. She enjoys writing for the Christian Science Publishing Society and currently serves in every way possible in her branch church, with her favorite way to serve as Sunday school teacher.
Wow, where do I begin? First of all, let me just say that being here at this end of the program, I am but a footnote. What I've heard here today is tremendous. And I just want to say, Dita, congratulations. You epitomize everything that I've been writing about and thinking about when it comes to nursing and Beacon Haven and what this means to certainly the upper Midwest, but to the world. Christian Science nursing is the gift of great price, the pearl of great price that is unique, necessary, and truly, truly a gem. So what a joy to be participating in Beacon Haven's annual meeting and its celebration of Christian Science nursing care. Not only is it a gift to our field, Christian Science nursing is a gift to the world. How so? It sets a standard. Christian Science nursing sets a standard for nursing and for all care and care facilities because it is based in spirit. And that's something that is so essential and, like so much in Christian Science, so ahead of its time. I remember working at the Christian Science camp in Colorado, which I had an opportunity to do for a number of years. And one of my favorite things to do was to partner with the Christian Science nurse. And that's where I first got the idea, oh, Christian Science nursing is the first aid. You begin with the metaphysics, with the understanding of spirit, and then everything else fills in. Everything else becomes appreciable to the need when the spiritual foundation has been set. And as a Christian Science practitioner, I so admire the job of the nurse. We saw today up in that definition of the nurse in the manual where it talks about proper care, but also demonstrable knowledge of Christian Science practice. You know, early on in the movement, if you were a Christian Science practitioner, you were also a nurse. You were doing both. And, in today's world, we think more compartmentalized, but truly, Christian Science nursing is essential to be able to understand the metaphysics before they ever begin any kind of care with their patient. So not only does the nurse declare the truth, they must continually face down in the sick room whatever mortal mind is suggesting and maintain the truth of being unimpressed with how the material evidence suggests itself. Over the years, I've heard so many different nurses come to me and talk about things that they're trying to see through, and I can feel their deep desire to be able to serve and to be able to serve as Jesus did, who only beheld the perfect man right where the sick or sinning mortal would appear. And this is truly a labor of love. And I don't have to tell any of you here, it's that continuum every day, being willing to look and see what's there and remain unimpressed with how the material evidence suggests itself. Nurses today are today's spiritual Minutemen and women that Mrs. Eddy wrote of when she talked about coming with sandals on and staff in hand, that humble willingness to serve and to do whatever, being ready to care for those who are relying solely on divine science and willing to turn from sense to soul. Am I talking too fast? Okay, please let me know. Okay. I've got a fair amount of material, but I'm excited to tell you all about it. So slow me down if I go too fast. Okay. The dedicated service and devotion to God, to Christian Science, and to our beloved leader, Mary Baker Eddy, is what distinguishes the care here at Beacon Haven and, of course, other Christian Science facilities from any other kind of care facility. So I would like to take a moment also to a very heartfelt thank you to everyone here at Beacon Haven, the nurses, staff, administration, the board, the volunteers, everyone who comes together and who maintains and sustains this beautiful idea that is known as Beacon Haven and its rich history of love being expressed. I just want you to know that when you walk in this room today, you feel that love. You feel the devotion and the dedication that is just absolutely present on all levels. And it is humbling to be here among you today, and I'm very grateful for this. So to all of you who are here right now in this room or joining us via Zoom, I am so happy to have this moment to share just a few thoughts about His care doth e'er surround us. There's an old song that begins, "What the world needs now is love, sweet love, not just for some, but for everyone." These words, although it was a pop song, are timeless, and they surely apply today to our world. Mankind deeply desires to feel the love and care of God, even if they don't know it. Wherever they are, whatever they're doing, mankind is reaching out for the kind of love that we feel shared here today. There's no question that the world around us can feel dark and uncertain. However, the truth is, this is not new. The world has always felt uncertain. The ancient prophets knew that out of that uncertainty can come great spiritual growth. In 2 Samuel, we read, "For thou art my lamp, O Lord, and the Lord will lighten my darkness." Darkness is the first word Mrs. Eddy uses to describe the word night in the glossary in her textbook. She also uses the words doubt and fear. Our world may appear to be thrust into the darkness of night, not only feel filled with fear, worry, and doubt, but moral idiocy, prejudice, divisiveness, envy, jealousy, anger, hatred, criminality, lawlessness, terror, violence, war. I could go on, but I think you get the point. One worries, how does one walk the streets, ride a bus, attend a gathering, travel the country, and still feel safe? All the while, darkness, doubt, and fear appear to be biting at our heels. Where does safety lie? That was a question I struggled with when my son, who was serving as an engineer in the United States Air Force in 2008, was deployed for a year to Afghanistan. I was gripped with worry, doubt, and fear. There was a war raging there. However, a wise Christian Science practitioner and my teacher simply said, "He brings his safety with him." Mr. Ferris was always a man short on words but big on meaning. And I will tell you that that simple thought would give me great peace in the long months that would follow. And I prayed for my son Jim every day. But one day, out of the blue, in the middle of the day, it came to me to stop what I was doing and pray specifically for him. And I did. I was comforted knowing that God's thoughts passing to man are angels that were not just with me, but were surrounding him simultaneously. There's no space. There's no distance. Now is the only time. I thought about the words in the 91st Psalm. He gives his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Well, much later, I would learn that at approximately that time, my son and his troops were traveling in jeeps over mountain roads and crossing a river that was normally not too deep to drive through. However, due to the spring runoff, the river had become more swollen and treacherous with a strong current. Just as my son's jeep entered the water, it began being swept down the river. However, the driver found enough traction on the river's bottom and safely crossed over to the other side. They were safe. In the words of hymn 9, he knows the angels that you need and sends them to your side to comfort, guard, and guide. And how beautifully God's angels appeared that day. And there were many other instances of coming through danger that year for my son that I would later learn, such as intelligence had told his troops that there were snipers throughout a village that they had to walk through, and not a single shot was fired. There was a moment when his troops were a target of an ambush and a roadside bomb, and it didn't touch him. Growing up in the Christian Science Sunday School, he saw many examples of God's protection, and he too knew that he brought his safety with him, just as each one of you do wherever you are, whatever you're doing. It comes right with you. From the Christian Science hymnal, the words articulated the deep gratitude that I felt upon his safe return. Holy Father, thou hast taught us we should live to thee alone. Year by year thy hand hath brought us on through dangers oft unknown. Even when we don't know it, God is on the job to protect, defend, and to keep us safe. We can never be outside of God's safety. And that's why the words of hymn 10, his care doth air surround us, so resonates with me. And so when I was asked to give this talk today, that idea had been something that I had been affirming daily in my practice and for the world. I mean, you can't hardly turn on the television or look at your phone or pick up a newspaper and not have headlines that make you go, sit down and pray. There's so much, and it's at such rapid fire, but yet God is a very present, powerful help. There will never be a moment where we are without our sense of spiritual composure to be able to see through the claim and see it for what it is. Whenever the human circumstances may appear, we bring our safety with us, and this truth understood brings God's light and ever-presence and is a law to every problem, and it is immediate. Why? Because God is always present, and he has no opposite, and all is one, God, man, and the multiverse. There's no other power or presence but God. So darkness, doubt, and fear are an illusion and have no power to resist the truth. Now, they may seem to obscure truth, but they cannot extinguish it. The seeming absence of God's presence is only a false belief that for a moment appears real to human consciousness. But just as in the darkness of night, we may not see our surroundings, but they remain present with or without the light. Truth is ever present and is divine light. Therefore, of its own volition, it is forever dawning in human consciousness, outshining the lie of material being. Truth is unstoppable because man is what truth is knowing. Therefore, man is the very thought of God and innately understands God and truth because man is the light of truth. We're not just people thinking about God. We're the very thought of God. We are what God is thinking, and therefore truth is inherent, innate, and unstoppable. Human consciousness imbued with this spiritual understanding we think of as being spiritually minded. However, if human consciousness becomes more acquainted with the ways of the world and believes material beliefs, one might say that's being materially minded. But Mrs. Eddy wrote, corporeal sense or error may seem to hide truth, health, harmony, but science, the sunshine of truth, will melt away the shadow and reveal the celestial peaks. Through divine science, the activity of the Christ reveals material beliefs to be erroneous. Truth understood is pure light that naturally eliminates the darkness and illusion of error. And Mrs. Eddy wrote, the recuperative action of the system, when mentally sustained by truth, goes on naturally. Our thought imbued with the truth is the natural defense against mortal beliefs and can find no lodgment in our thought imbued with the Christ. Nothing can resist the truth. And that is why the belief of incurability is a lie about man's immortality. Actually, it's an impossibility. There's no such thing. And if you hear it, don't believe it. Nothing is incurable in the realm of the real. When man awakens to the divine authority of truth by which man lives, he will no longer fear that disease can kill him. The myth of incurability will be disproved. Talking too much, sorry. Many years ago, my father-in-law, who did not practice Christian Science, but knew that I did, asked me to pray for him. As I held him in my consciousness as family, I could naturally behold him in his perfect state of being, refusing to see anything but his spiritual, pure reality. Through love's omnipotence and ever-presence, there was no fear in my thought about his health, and nothing could alter my sense of his reality, no matter what the material beliefs were. But to be honest, at the time he asked me to pray, I had no idea what the situation was. It would be much later that I would learn that he had been diagnosed with an incurable disease and was not expected to live very long. He was under medical care, but at that moment in his extremity, he believed in the power of God and prayer more than the diagnosis of disease. He put his trust in God, and he saw the belief of disease fade from his experience. Within 6 months, the doctors asked him to come to this office. He was at the Marshfield Clinic at the time. There were 6 doctors, and they looked at him and they said, "Pat, we cannot explain what's happened to you, but there's no trace of the disease. If we were you, we would thank God." And it never returned. No matter what man's human circumstances may be, even if he only catches a glimpse of truth, pinprick of truth and light, it will illumine the darkness. It's so powerful. In Jesus' words, knowing the truth indeed sets us free and enables us to hear directly God's angel messages. And these messages are there for everybody all the time. Once again, whether or not we recognize it for what it is, it is. Mrs. Eddy wrote, "The intercommunication is always from God to his idea man. All communication is between God and man. God is speaking to you and God is speaking to me simultaneously. There's nothing in between. It's immediate, no medium. It's God to me, God to you, God to me, God to you. That's the intercommunication. There's no other source. And actually, aren't you glad? What a relief. That means each one of us is receiving the same godlike messages at the same time. And you or I do not need to convince someone else they need to hear what I'm hearing or you're hearing, because God is speaking directly to them. And they will hear the messages relative to what they understand about God. And that's the key. And frankly, it's none of our business what anybody else is hearing from God. That's unique to them. What they understand is where they're at that moment. So it's not my business to try to convince, influence, cajole, coerce, or argue my point. And if asked for your opinion, remember Mrs. Eddy's wise counsel. Human opinions are valueless, so give them sparingly. My only business is to love that person and never to criticize, judge, or condemn. It's essential to trust the fact that God is in direct communication with each one of us all the time because there's only one mind. We have a lot of different human opinions, but just one mind doing the communicating. So when we find ourselves in a relationship at home or at work or in the community with someone who holds very different human opinions, it is tempting to want to either change their opinion or at very least convince them why you're right and they're wrong. The only change that will be meaningful is to change our own opinion about them. And that we could ever see an incorrigible human and replace it with the truth that all that is real is God's spiritual and perfect man, period, full stop. It's all we have to know. I learned this lesson the hard way. While serving on a church committee with a member who would sometimes say things that felt a little harsh, she made a comment. Sometimes people say one thing and do another. She looked directly at me. I sunk into my chair thinking, oh no, what did I do? Then I quickly reversed this and thought, no, she's God's perfect child. But I couldn't resist. Yeah, but she's got a lot to learn. I self-righteously rested on that thought, negating my previous one. So in my next conversation with her, I blurted out, why did you say that to me? Now she was upset with me. She had not only not intended the comment to be about me, but she was also hurt that I would think that about her. I apologized profusely. Eventually, she did forgive me. But I have to say, it was a very valuable lesson. It is so important what we think, what we hold in consciousness. We think we can hide those things. You really can't. It is essential that we are knowing and holding to what is true and mean it. We can hide it for a while, but inevitably it comes around. So handle it and handle it to its absolute, complete state where we see error, evil, mortal mind as nothing. If one holds material beliefs as reality, if one believes in what Mrs. Eddy calls the law of opposites, then one will hear the same angel message from God, but it will come to you in reverse, which is why I said it's important what you understand about God. These angel messages, this communication coming directly to you, is always God speaking. But the human consciousness, through this belief of a law of opposites, will reverse it. And in human consciousness, the material senses acting through that law will reverse it so that what is good will appear bad. But to reverse this effect is to see as God sees, and this requires spiritual sense. And Mrs. Eddy defines spiritual sense as the constant conscious capacity to understand God. It is a constant, vigilant activity to stand porter at the door of thought, and we're well rewarded if we do. We become spiritually fit as we exercise our spiritual sense. And even though the human consciousness seems to entertain both spiritual and material sense, with that spiritual fitness, we're able to pick it out immediately. You know, like the wheat and the tare, we gather in that wheat. These are God's thoughts. The tare we discard, those are the opposite. They're appearing only as an aggressive mental suggestion. Jesus understood that fact so well because he knew God spoke directly to each individual. He didn't even bother to admonish the people who wanted to stone the adulterous woman. He just wrote on the ground. And then he understood, because truth was speaking to them, he could simply state, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." He allowed their own conscience to convict them. Jesus knew that we all hear God speaking directly, and he proved that to be true because that day not a stone was thrown. The more we understand the fact that God is communicating not only to ourselves, but to everyone throughout the world, that care that we're thinking of, that care that we're understanding, is a present reality, and it shines in our individual lives, and it shines throughout the whole world. Knowing all this, you're still going to hear these arguments. Well, fine. If God is speaking and I'm hearing and this is all well and good, why do I still hurt? When will the pain stop? What about my broken bone or my shattered relationship? And what can I do about a world that seems so broken? If God is all good and all is good, why do I or others still hurt? Have we not at some point all found these questions coming to us in some form? These are comments filled with worry, doubt, and fear and appear very real to the material senses. But here's the good news. They're not your thoughts. They don't belong to anybody. They are, as Mrs. Eddy describes, aggressive mental suggestions which operate as vehicles to usher in animal magnetism, which is the specific term for error that seems to operate separate from God. Now, the whole thing is impossible, but it says it is. So, an aggressive mental suggestion is a mortal belief that is coming to man as his own thought. However, it's an illusion. And Mrs. Eddy made a point. Now, she only uses it once, but in the manual, she says, it is our duty. It's not an option. It's our duty to daily handle. And she says that these are aggressive mental suggestions. They're not passive. Because if we're not handling them as nothing, they are handling us as something. These suggestions are mocking the infinite nature of God's angels that are surrounding and caring for us. They suggest that we are vulnerable or not cared for by God, that we can have a pain that lingers, that we can have a bone that's not knitting together, that we can be in the middle of a messy relationship or traumatized by a world that's gone crazy. It suggests all of that. We have a choice. We must choose, and we must see them for what they are. They are not our thought. I want to say that again because it's real important. These negative suggestions that come, and they use the first person pronoun I because they're mocking God. I am that I am. It says I am not. I am not well. I am not good. So it's taking the first pronoun I, which is God, and man who is am, and reversing it. And if we're not spiritually astute, we're going to take that I to think it's ourselves. I am not well. That's not it. It's an inversion of God's angels that are coming to you. A Sunday school teacher once explained to my daughter that error speaks to you like a little imp on your shoulder whispering lies to you. She was told, don't believe them. Brush your shoulder. On the day she shared that with our family, we were driving to my husband's parents' home to visit. While lunch was being prepared, she, her brother, and her dad decided to play a game of tag in the yard. And when her dad ran and stepped into a hole, he twisted his ankle and was lying on the ground. And she ran to him and she said, why don't you get up? And when he explained what had happened, she said, Dad, brush your shoulder. And he did. He would later explain that her strong conviction and trust in God inspired him to stand. And by the way, he was relatively new to science and when we were first married in those early years with the children. This was his first Christian Science healing. I just want to make that, I think it's important. He felt her conviction. He felt her love. And then he found that the pain and swelling quickly subsided. So, if you don't take away anything else from what I've said to you today, brush your shoulder. Aggressive mental suggestions are tricky because, again, they claim to be your own thought. Don't be fooled. We must daily watch our thought, and then we will defend ourselves best against them. Human consciousness imbued with the Christ naturally eliminates any false belief of minds many and sees mortal mind as the imposter it is. Having this state of consciousness, Mrs. Eddy refers to as the human and divine coincidence. And to describe the phenomena of outgrowing mortal beliefs, she states, in divine revelation, material and corporeal selfhood disappear and the spiritual idea is understood. Daily get to see this process. This is our practice of Christian Science, outgrowing these mortal beliefs that have nothing to do with us, and be the man of God that we are now and always have been. I'm just going to share one of the most insidious claims that must be outgrown is the belief that man is an aging mortal with a material body subject to the passage of time, the beliefs of heredity, diminishment, growing ineptitude, and frailty. That's a whole lot of nonsense. I just want to ask, what does going around the sun have to do with you? God's eternal, immortal, spiritual idea. Mrs. Eddy said 3 little words that we should always remember. It's the best antidote. Never record age. Never. It isn't applicable to you. We only measure the unfolding of good because we are spiritual beings who have never been born. As a practicing Christian Scientist, we all know this. This is not new news, but we all get to prove it in our own unique way. In 2013, I sat on my sunglasses and they broke. To replace them, I needed to see an optometrist because my driver's license requires me to wear prescription lenses. So I needed to have an eye exam to replace them. And the optometrist prescribed new glasses and said, "Well, at your age, you're developing cataracts. We'll have to be watching this one." I left the office and I denied the claim and didn't think about it again for a few months until I was writing an address at my computer. And all of a sudden, I couldn't seem to wipe a film off of one of my eyes. Then I remembered the suggestion from the optometrist, delayed hypnotism. I bought it. I thought I had fought against it. I thought I'd said the truth, but obviously at some level I had agreed with her, and I got right to work. I read everything I could about true vision, and there was no matter. However, it didn't seem to matter. The blurriness persisted. The day came that I had to board the plane to go give my address, and my eye was still blurry. However, I was pretty happy. I was actually enjoying the message that I had been writing about, and the title of that talk was Now is Eternity. While I delivered the talk, it became so clear to me that there was no age, and that man is an eternal spiritual being of light. When I finished my talk, I saw clearly out of both eyes, and it has never come back. In fact, recently, once again, I had to replace those sunglasses, and I haven't been back for an eye exam at the driver's license place. I went in, and the optometrist never said a word about a cataract, and also said, "Well, you really don't need these glasses." He said, "The reason they're so blurry for you right now is because you're seeing without the prescription." And I can honestly say I am on my knees in deep gratitude for what we understand about man as a Christian Scientist. Truth understood is effective for each one of us individually, and it is uplifting collectively for all mankind. So what you're knowing for yourself, you're knowing for the world. In the May 1943 Christian Science Journal, Julia M. Johnston wrote an article titled From Zone to Zone. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. Even if you are, read it again. It's just so perfect for today. In it, she states, spiritual facts, when discerned and accepted, affect global events as naturally as individual situations. As humanity progresses out of the chaos of materialistic belief, inspired thought, becoming aware of the unaltered divine order, necessarily, eagerly reaches out for further spiritual perception wherewith to behold the unshaken reality of things. Your spiritualized thought has an uplifting effect on the universe. Every idea of mind includes every other idea. All is one. There is no time. There is nothing that separates us. Just as when my son was in Afghanistan, it didn't matter he was halfway across the world. The oneness of mind precludes time and distance and puts all of us together simultaneously. Therefore, what blesses one truly blesses all. You are that bright light on the hill, Beacon Haven. You are a beacon of hope for all mankind. And to love our fellow man is fulfilling our duty to God. The law of love is manifested in Scripture that we read, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God." As we live love, we bring truth to light. On an international flight, my husband and I had just been served our meal, and as you know, at that point, the trays are collected, the lights are dimmed, hoping everybody would rest. And I was just dozing off when I heard a lot of commotion across the center section of the seats and on the other side of this large airplane. A young man and an older woman were arguing loudly. The flight attendant escorted the woman to another seat and said to the man, "If you do not settle down, we're turning this plane around." I felt great compassion for all of them. It occurred to me that they were all innocent. Mortal mind was the culprit, and they were all hearing the angels they needed to feel calm and not be affected by any aggressive mental suggestions. I was looking at the man and smiling, not intentionally, it just happened that way. But he caught my eye, and the flight attendant eventually walked over to me with a folded newspaper. She said to me, "Please accept this newspaper. The man wants me to give it to you." I was touched. I looked up and mouthed thank you to them. The paper was a lovely gesture and helped me to know that he had felt God's love. I was just an auxiliary. I was just there doing what we all do, just living love, being love. And it was felt. Love is palpable. Just as I said to you earlier, walking into this room today, you can feel that love. It's amazing. And good news, the rest of that flight was uneventful. So whether you're facing down a lack of safety, a physical problem, a relationship challenge, or uncertainty of any kind, it is God's infinite goodness that delivers us from all evil. God's love fills all space, as Mrs. Eddy wrote. The depth, breadth, height, might, majesty, and glory of infinite love fill all space. That is enough. Love is our sufficiency, and there is nothing love cannot do. Mrs. Eddy once said to her students, and this is recorded in We Knew Mary Baker Eddy's second edition by Sue Mims, "What is the best way to do instantaneous healing? It is to love. Just live love. Be it. Love, love, love. Do not know anything but love. Be all love." So please go forward today knowing that you are the loved of love. You are adored in every way possible, and you naturally express love effortlessly because it's your identity. It's who you are. Through the Christ, you are the light of truth and love, and God is with you constantly. And you bring your safety with you wherever you are all the time. Therefore, do not worry, doubt, or fear. Brush your shoulder, rejoice, be glad, give thanks. God is a law of love governing you and the whole universe, and his care doth e'er surround you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. We will be brushing our shoulders. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. In closing, I'll read Mary Baker Eddy's New Year's gift, a prayer for the big children. Father, Mother, God, lovingly thee I seek, patient, meek in the way thou hast, be it slow or fast, up to thee. Thank you.